You are listening to The Big Story.
Hello and welcome to The Big Story with Danish. Now today we're talking about a letter which was published on the Defence Ministry website of Sri Lanka. The title was How Meaningful Are Jayalalitha's Love Letter to Narendra Modi? Now, interestingly, Prime Minister Modi and Tamil Nadu Chief Minister were targeted in, and this article used strong language against the Chief Minister. To talk about it, because we have senior leader Subramanian Swamy joining with us because he went a month back to Sri Lanka. So who better than Mr. Subramanian Swamy on our program? So welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So Mahinda Rajapaksa has apologized. This situation is to a point has been controlled. But this entire issue is about Indian fishermen going and fishing in the international waters, and especially the Lankan waters. So what is this entire situation?
Yes. Well, first of all, there is no such thing as the international waters between India and Sri Lanka. It's either Indian waters or Sri Lankan waters. And the Indian waters don't have fish because these mechanized boats over the last 20 years have completely, exhausted the stock of fish and prawns. So now the only way these fishermen can make a livelihood is if they act on the pressure of the mechanized boat owners and go across the medial line and go into Sri Lankan waters. Now, naturally, they get caught, and then there's a big hoo-ha being made because these very mechanized boat owners finance this kind of uproar. Any country, self-respecting country, will not allow unauthorized entry into their territorial waters, and Sri Lanka is doing just precisely that. Now, I had spoken to the president about the fact that the fishermen are employees. They should not be, put through great hardships only because of the fact that they have, for their livelihood, being compelled to come to the Sri Lankan waters. So he worked out an arrangement, which was that every fisherman caught from India would be produced before the court and then let out on indefinite bail, and then they can go back to the country, but the boats will not be returned. And that system has worked now. So it's not it's no more a big issue, this fisherman issue.
So is this the permanent solution for this problem?
No, it's not a permanent solution. The permanent solution is to grow more fish in our waters. Look at it, put people on the job, and see that it is done, and come to some agreement, because the Sri Lankan are not able to exhaust their supply. Their demand is much smaller than the available stock of fish in their waters. So we could come to a written agreement with them saying that these are the areas our people will be allowed to fish in your waters. But that requires a friendly atmosphere between us and the Sri Lankans.
No, but in the article which was published, certain words were used regarding the boats which were there, and allegations that the Chief Minister owns them and her party members.
Yeah. Well, it's partly true that she may not own, but Shashikala does. And she's a very close friend, and she lives with Jayalalitha. And in fact, her Woman Friday, if I can use that word. And ministers, particularly DMK ministers, a lot of DMK ministers own fishing trawlers. Very profitable thing because these fish and the prawns get exported. 100% get exported. There's no local Indian market for it. So they earn a lot of money for very little investment. So, yes, that allegation is true. But the thing is that this article, for which we're getting so het up about, is written by a private individual, a journalist. And the Ministry of Defence allows private individuals to post the thing for a payment. Because their own military people don't have that kind of background that they can fill a website with articles about national security matters. In that context, he did. And at the moment it was brought to the notice, and I was the first one to bring it to the notice of the president of the Sri Lanka. He immediately apologized and got it conveyed by a Tamil minister called Douglas Devanand to me. And subsequently, the High Commissioner also phoned me up and told me. Now, there are much worse things are written in the London Economist and New York Times and so on, and we don't scream. But this has become now a favorite sport. You see, part of the problem in Tamil Nadu is that the cinema world, which is very active in the media, is largely has been for the last 30 years financed by LTT drug money. And so the cinema industry runs on cash, and these all the hoodlums in the country and outside abroad have that kind of money. You see, the Bombay thing there's a large influence of Dawood Ibrahim and the Dubai crowd. So for them, this defeat of the LTT was a very big blow, and they're hoping that somehow that the whole thing could be revived. And so it is wrong to say that the Tamil people supportive of this, because in the elections they defeated every one of them. Vaiko was given 8 seats by the BJP, and despite the BJP wave in the rest of the country, 7 of the 8 lost their deposits. See? So therefore there's no public support for it. I myself go there, address meetings and so on. I speak openly in favor of Rajapaksa. And the Tamil Nadu people turn up in large numbers. I just only 3 days ago addressed one rally in Madurai, which is supposed to be the seat of pro-LTT activity.
But a lot of political parties are against your visit to Sri Lanka time and again, and that's been happening for quite some time.
Yeah, they are, but they are no one to decide. See, I don't think state parties should decide national policy.
So in the end, we should always remember that our national interest should be kept above all the other reasons.
Absolutely. I have, I say the same thing with the Muslims also. You can't support Palestine over Israel. You have to look at our.
So let me come to the Muslim factors, because you have mentioned that in Sri Lanka, which has a amount of Muslim population, and certain extremist groups are looking to recruit them. Now that will be quite a dangerous trend, because China has already put in their places investment in Sri Lanka. Now India's national interest is what then in this entire situation?
Absolutely, it is because of our rather just 10 years of UPA rule. We have been very nasty to the Sri Lankans, and the Sri Lankans for their protection. You see, if you live in Sri Lanka, you see India as a much bigger giant than we see ourselves. And in order to protect themselves, they have leaned on the Chinese and the Sri Lankans, and the Pakistanis. And in fact, even now, whenever some opportunity comes, they first prefer India. For instance, this port that is being developed in Montaka. Originally, they asked India for credits and assistance in building, and India declined because Karnataka put his foot down, and the UPA government chickened out. So then the Chinese themselves came and said, "Why you want credit? We'll give you free, and we'll build it for you." And they have built it, and now the Sri Lankans can't refuse their boats, their battleships from being parked in Hambantota, which is just 30 kilometers across. See, then same thing with Pakistan. They also moved in, and then they infiltrated Batticaloa area, the northeast, which is full of Muslims. And now they've started recruiting them for terrorist action in India.
So, so now with the new government, the Narendra Modi government, how this situation, the entire paradigm shift will happen? Because your visit is happening. You went there last time with their entire delegation.
I'm going again this month on 18th to address the Sri Lankan Army International Conference. Yeah.
So how will the entire paradigm shift will happen, and when can actually India see that India and Sri Lanka's relationship is quite important, because there is a big number of Tamilians staying there. The language is common. They've been staying there for quite some time. The relationship between India and Sri Lanka has been we've gone through rough patches, but they are important neighbors.
Yes, they are important neighbors, and the Tamils in Sri Lanka are now very supportive of close relations between India and Sri Lanka. It's only the Tamils, a small militant group in Sri Lanka, in Tamil Nadu, which is creating all the problem, and they use the media for that. Somebody has to go and take a poll and see, and ask whether I'm right or Vaiko is right. You'll find that 90% will be saying I am right and Vaiko is 10% only. Therefore, I think we need now a paradigm shift. But unfortunately, many of our leaders BJP leaders are North Indian centric.
No, why I'm specifically asking this question, sir, because you're born in Tamil Nadu, you know the politics, you've been to Sri Lanka. So how do you see this? I mean, people in North India, that's the point. A lot of us are ignorant of this fact, that what exactly happens in the South.
No, see, first of all, the Sinhalese also came from India.
Absolutely.
They came from Orissa and Bihar. And a little bit from Bengal.
Right.
So I think, you see, we should regard them as our kin, our supporters, interact with them. I think it has to be done slowly because too much vested interest has been built, too much money is involved. Many of our politicians are financed in elections by them. And the diaspora in London is encouraged by the British Foreign Office. I think both the Americans and the British are not very happy with the model Rajapaksa chose to finish off terrorism. Because then if you start finishing off terrorism, the American need will go down. You see, the Americans consider themselves the sole champion of fighting terrorism. So the way we have to go is the ignorance we have to remove. For instance, people don't know that all the LTT type people, Tamil militant type people have lost the elections. Most people don't know that. And even TV refers to Tamil parties. They don't refer to Bangladesh problem as Bengali parties in India. There they say Trinamool is like that and Congress says like that. But when it comes to describing India, they say Tamil parties have protested. Tamil sentiment is like that. This is nothing of the kind.
Because there is a division in between them also.
Yeah, 90% is national. Tamil.
So we hope that's finally I want to understand that we hope that in future with the new government in place and with the delegation going and you heading it, relationship between India and Sri Lanka will improve, and certainly such articles who get published on websites and where the president has to come out and apologize won't happen.
Yes. No, well, see, you can't stop articles from coming. You have very good we are very keen to have good relations with the United States. Do you think the United States don't have all kinds of nasty articles? Even today we have people accusing Modi of genocide in articles. The New York Times from time to time produces an op-ed article which is very critical of us. So I think we should stop being sensitive on this. And interact, get somebody else to write a counter article. Right.
Would you be, on a lighter note, would you be writing an article on this?
I'm all over Sri Lankan press. And probably the most popular Indian in Sri Lanka today.
Right, and I hope that stays that way, sir.
Of course it will stay.
On that note, I want to thank you for giving me the time out of your busy schedule, sir. Thank you very much. Bye. So that was senior leader of the BJP, Subramanian Swamy, quite well known in his own words in the Sri Lankan media and especially also in the Indian media. When it comes to the Gandhi family, it's Subramanian Swamy is always in the limelight. Anyway, if you want to get in touch with us, you can simply tweet us. Our handle is @NitiCentral and on NWR Live, it's @NWR_live. And this was The Big Story with Danish.
You are listening to The Big Story.